He didn't just invent products, he created entire industries. He fundamentally changed how we work, how we communicate, and how we live. In doing so, he helped build the engine of the modern American economy. This is the story of the man who industrialized the future, Thomas Edison. Thomas Alva Edison was born in 1847 in the small town of Milan, Ohio. His childhood was anything but ordinary. In school, he was a handful. His teachers thought he was slow, easily distracted, and unable to follow instructions. His mind would wander, lost in a world of its own. He just didn't fit into the rigid structure of 19th century education. So, after only a few months, his mother, a former teacher herself, pulled him out of school. She decided to teach him at home, and this single decision would change the course of history. She didn't just teach him reading, writing, and arithmetic. She nurtured his insatiable curiosity, and that curiosity became Edison's greatest superpower. As a boy, Edison was obsessed with understanding how things worked. He wasn't content just to observe, he had to experiment. He set up a small laboratory in his basement, filled with chemicals and contraptions. He tried to make his friend fly by giving him a gas-filled concoction, which just made the poor kid sick. He blew things up. He failed constantly, spectacularly, and without shame. But for Edison, failure wasn't the end. It was data, it was a lesson, it was fuel for his next attempt. He famously said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This relentless spirit of trial and error would define his entire career. As a teenager, Edison got a job that would profoundly shape his future, a telegraph operator. It was the high-tech job of its day. The telegraph was the internet of the 19th century, a vast network connecting the country through dots and dash. This job was a real-world education. He learned about the practical applications of electricity, the complexities of communication networks, and the importance of reliability. He saw firsthand that technology wasn't just about a single, brilliant invention. It was about building a robust, interconnected infrastructure that people could depend on. This insight was key. While other inventors were chasing singular moments of genius, Edison was already thinking about systems. His first inventions were practical improvements to the technologies he used every day. He developed a device that could automatically repeat telegraph signals and an improved stock ticker that was far more efficient than existing models. He wasn't trying to create something out of thin air. He was solving real-world problems. He wasn't chasing perfection, he was chasing usefulness. He understood that an invention was worthless if it didn't serve a purpose or couldn't be commercialized. Then came the breakthrough that made him a global celebrity, the phonograph. In 1877, Edison created a machine that could record and replay sound. The idea was so revolutionary it seemed like magic. For the very first time in human history, a sound could be captured and preserved. The world was absolutely stunned. People called him the Wizard of Menlo Park. The phonograph was a sensation, but for Edison, it was just the beginning. His mind was already moving on to a much bigger, more ambitious challenge. He wanted to conquer the night. At the time, cities were dark and dangerous after sunset. Lighting came from gas lamps, which were expensive, smelly, and a constant fire hazard. Edison had a vision of a world lit by clean, safe, and affordable electricity. The challenge was immense. Many had tried and failed to create a practical electric light. The core problem was finding a filament, the part that glows inside the bulb, that could last long enough to be commercially viable. Edison and his team embarked on a legendary quest, testing thousands upon thousands of materials. They tried everything from platinum to bamboo fibers. Finally, in 1879, after countless failures, they succeeded with a carbonized cotton thread filament. It glowed for over 13 hours. Edison's electric light worked. But he knew the light bulb alone was not enough. Who would buy a light bulb if they had no way to power it? This is where Edison's genius for systems truly shone. He didn't just invent a product, he built the entire industry around it. He designed and patented everything needed for an electrical grid: generators, dynamos, wiring, fuses, switches, and even the meters to measure electricity usage. He was creating a complete ecosystem from scratch. On September 4, 1882, Edison flipped the switch on his Pearl Street station in New York City. For the first time, a commercial electric grid came to life, powering a square-mile section of Lower Manhattan. It was the birth of the modern city. The impact was immediate and transformative. Factories could now operate 24 hours a day. Businesses could stay open later. Streets became safer. Productivity skyrocketed. The age of electricity had begun, and it fundamentally rewired the American economy. But Edison's dominance was not guaranteed. A fierce and brilliant rival emerged. Nikola Tesla. Tesla, who had briefly worked for Edison, championed a different type of electricity called alternating current, or AC. Edison was a staunch advocate for his own system, direct current, or DC. This disagreement escalated into a bitter and public feud known as the War of the Currents. Edison, in a ruthless and controversial campaign, tried to portray AC as dangerously unsafe. He went to extreme lengths to discredit his rival's technology. Ultimately, however, the war had a clear winner. AC, backed by industrialist George Westinghouse, proved to be more efficient for transmitting power over long distances. Edison lost the battle. Alternating current became the standard for power grids around the world, and it still is today. But even in defeat, Edison's influence was unstoppable. His company, the Edison General Electric Company, didn't disappear. It adapted. It merged with a competitor that used AC technology, and it evolved into one of the largest and most powerful corporations in American history, General Electric. Over his lifetime, Thomas Edison was granted more than 1,000 patents. His inventions ranged from the kinetoscope, an early motion picture viewer, to the alkaline battery. But perhaps his single greatest invention wasn't a device at all. It was a process. It was the creation of the Industrial Research Laboratory. At his lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey, Edison assembled a team of brilliant engineers, machinists, and scientists. It was a factory for innovation. They worked collaboratively, pursuing systematic experimentation on an industrial scale. This model of a dedicated team, focused on research and development with commercial goals, was revolutionary. It's the blueprint that still drives the most innovative technology companies in the world today, from Silicon Valley to beyond. Thomas Edison was not a perfect man. He could be stubborn, arrogant, and ruthless in his business dealings. His public campaign against AC power remains a stain on his legacy. But his impact on the modern world is simply undeniable. He was a force of nature, a visionary who saw not just what an invention could do, but what it could become. When Thomas Edison died in 1931 at the age of 84, communities across the United States dimmed their electric lights in his honor. It was a fitting tribute to the man who had brought light to the world. Because when you look around at our modern life, the power that runs our homes, the industries that drive our economy, the media that connects us, so much of it traces back to the tireless curiosity and systematic genius of Thomas Edison. He didn't just invent the future. He built it, he wired it, and he industrialized it for all of us. Thanks for watching. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories about the people who shaped our world. See you next time.